Everyone hear me good? Okay. I'll start off with the short story in the magazine, for Wheel of Bliss. If there are any electro music aficionados, is that okay? Amongst you in the audience, you may recognise the location of this next one. It's called Izzy. It was late and there was nothing on TV, and it still felt strange being in the flat on my own. So I decided to finish my cup of tea and get the bus into town. Not with anywhere particular in mind, just figured I had a few spare coins in my pocket, so might as well see what happened. I waited at the bus stop at the end of the road, listening to the rain on the roof of the shelter, and when a bus came I stuck my hand out and found myself a seat upstairs. I sat down, and when the bus started moving again, it was like the streetlights were doing cartwheels through the upstairs windows, raining tiny yellow sparks on the pavement below. There were people sitting together on the back of the upper deck with cans of beer in their hands and cheering, like they were a group of friends or something. I looked at them while pretending to type a message on my phone, then slipped my hand in my pocket and pulled out a flyer for something called Sex with Robots. I got off the bus and said thanks to the driver and followed the directions on the back of the flyer, and soon I came to some double doors, where a large man with an eyebrow piercing and a black bomber jacket stood with his hands clasped in front of him, his shoulders hunched forward, like he was defending a free kick or something. I pointed at the name on the flyer and asked if this was the place, and he nodded and raised his eyebrows and tilted his head to the back of the queue. I thanked him and joined the end of the line and counted in my head to 1,000, until I was nearly inside, getting my hand stamped purple and shuffling sideways past the bouncer through the door. Inside, the room was red and black and filled with different coloured shadows, and the music playing was loud and made me think of dots and dashes, only faster, like sped up Morse code or something. I thought to myself, this must be robot music, and sure enough I saw an old vacuum cleaner nodding her handle to the beat on the dance floor. I looked around and saw two robots pressed up against each other in the corner of the room, while another two robots were playing Pong on a TV screen above the stage. One robot was Somalia and the other was Chechnya, and whenever the white dot fell off the side of the screen, the words Obama Rama flashed sideways in red and blue for about 7 seconds. Part of me wanted Somalia to win, though the rest of me wasn't sure why. Soon the same vacuum cleaner I'd seen nodding on the dance floor started to hoover in my direction. She said hello and told me I had beautiful eyes, and I said I liked her funnel, though deep down I saw that she wasn't a Dyson, so didn't find her all that attractive. I didn't like lying to her and thought seriously about coming clean and saying your lack of root cyclone technology is a turn-off, but in the end I made some feeble excuse and ambled over to the bar. I leaned across the edge of the bar, which was black and sharp and sticky, and saw lots of cans of Red Stripe stacked next to each other in a fridge. I started to think that maybe I wanted to order a can of Red Stripe, but when the girl behind the bar, who was dressed as Darth Vader, asked me what I wanted, I panicked and forgot what my face looked like and ordered a Malibu and Coke instead. I sipped a little through a plastic straw, then noticed the girl standing next to me, a real-life human girl, smiling and saying hello and letting me shake her hand and everything. She bought me another Malibu and Coke, complimenting me on such an ironic drink choice, then looked into my eyes, pushed her lips together and asked if she'd seen me somewhere before. I said no, I didn't think so, and she said, oh okay, that's cool. Then proceeded to tell me about all the different robots she'd ever slept with, even a female toaster she'd experimented with in sixth form at a friend's cousin's birthday party. I didn't want to feel left out, so I made up a story about getting to second base with my grandma's microwave. She laughed, out loud. Then her eyes went all serious and she asked if I'd ever had a threesome with a digital set-top box. I said I hadn't, and she said she had one at home and started stroking the hair behind my ear, and then the music went quiet except for a low buzzing sound that tiptoed up my spine to the top of my head. I pulled away and said sorry, I have to go, because her touching my ear reminded me of something, and she looked confused and asked me quietly if it was because of something she'd said. No, really, I answered, I'm sorry, I forgot. I came out and left the freezer door open, and then by way of further explanation, I have to get home before everything melts. And she nodded as her eyes sort of collapsed to the floor, all shiny and disappointed. I thanked her for the drink and she nodded again, then just as I reached the door she shouted, we don't have to have a robot threesome, you know, if you want it can be just you and me. But by that time I was already out on the street, which was cold and grey, and a little bit wet with bits of blue flitting beneath the surface. I started to think how nice it was of her to say hello and buy me a drink, which made me think that maybe I shouldn't have walked out after all. But then an automatic tie rack shoved the back of my knee and shouted to get out of his way. I realised I was standing at the front of the queue and turned round to apologise, then slipped my fingers in my pockets, grazing the flyer with my hand, and walked back to the centre of town. I didn't have an automatic tie rack at home, just sort of folded all my ties in the corner of the drawer next to the rolls of socks. I wondered if maybe that wasn't my problem, that maybe everyone organised their ties electronically except me. I thought about this and the girl at the bar, though mainly about the girl at the bar, then got to thinking about the things she'd reminded me of. How the flyer in my pocket could be a cardboard swan, left behind as a present on a breakfast table that wasn't my breakfast table anymore. Like the napkin I first used to get Izzy's attention, or the tissue paper pigeons I used to leave on the pillow to remind her of the first time we met. I took the flyer out of my pocket and folded it a few times, trying to shake the sound of the name on my lips, then watched it stutter and slide off its newfound perch on a shiny metal railing. It was Tuesday mainly, the same as last Tuesday and the Tuesday before, but when I looked up I could see a little bit of Wednesday starting to flicker through the clouds in the distance. Thank you. Okay, I think we've just about got time for a couple of poems. So, this poem's called Epic, because it's full of epic things, and it goes like this. There were 9 dead flies stuck to the edge of the sink, flopped sideways with their wings pinned to the lip of the bowl, or else glued to glaucous smears of stale toothpaste and the yellow foam shadow of yesterday's mouthwash. I counted them quietly between thumb and forefinger, wondered out loud if they'd lived full lives, if they'd all at least once felt tiny heartstrings stutter before being drawn like black narcissi to the depths of their reflections, each shiny well of water left behind from when the tap last shed a single tear. Perhaps in the white bubble of the porcelain surface, they'd imagined descending to drag their feet through swirls of cotton cloud, like the carpet of celestial travellers in Renaissance paintings, or maybe parts they'd only stooped to drink from the rivers of their selves. I tried to give them names, invent personal histories, insert mythologies steeped in thunder and surf like the great lost kingdom of Atlantis, but after a while their stories all looked the same, then eddied into nothing. Sleeplessness, Homer, taut sails. I wondered if the way they looked to me was the way we looked to God, a catalogue of ships on an ocean of white, or else tiny grey specks with little legs and arms, otherwise identical in side-on profile to bits of hair stuck to a sink. I picked each one up by their wings, marched them along my fingers towards the cradle of my palm, and struggled to find the words to fill a makeshift elegy, because gods make their own importance. Slowly I twisted the tapped crucifix and watched them float away. Seeing as we started with a nod to electro music, we may as well finish with one. This is a very, very short poem called Love Songs. We wrapped our arms in the shadow of yesterday's morning, with scars only visible in the glare of certain lights underneath the skin. We turned our faces into syllables and counted out the beats, watched the wolfram thread its signal round the 4 walls of the room, then played a game to see which one of us could sit and stay quiet the loudest. She said she couldn't read my smile, it wasn't written on my face. We closed our eyes, we made love, we listened to death from above. Thank you.